بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين المصطفى أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل وجهه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وقرآنه الحميد وقوله الحق: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. A little while back, a few weeks ago, I received an email from a youth. The email contained a link to an article written by a Muslim. Not only a Muslim, in fact, the name suggests that the person is a Shia. Not only a Shia, the name also suggests that the person who wrote the article is a Sayyid. The sad part, however, is that the article brings some arguments that deal with violence in the Qur'an, where the writer suggests that there are indeed verses of violence, promoting violence in the Qur'an. And he says Muslims need not to turn a blind eye to these verses. This is in the Holy Book, which is considered to be infallible. And hence, whatever we're observing today in the world from some of those terrorist organizations has basis in the Qur'an. That's the gist of the argument. So this youth is asking me in the email, how do we respond? Or in fact, what should we think of what's written in the article? Okay. This prompted me to the topic of tonight, the one that you see on your screen: violence in the Qur'an, reality or myth. So we'll be, inshallah, over the course of the few minutes we have. Of course, we will not be able to address every single point given the time. Yes, I don't blame you for shouting like this. Wallahi, this was my reaction too when I read that article. Yeah. So, we will not be able to address every single point, every single ayah. That is not possible given the time frame that we have. However, inshallah, what we will do is the following. we will review a little bit. And in the review, we'll take a look at a couple of points. Then we will take a look at only 2 examples that refer to violence in the Qur'an, and that's because of the time frame. Then we'll do some reflections. We'll think about those verses, and then we'll come to the conclusion, inshallah. So over the next few minutes, inshallah, we'll be able to shed some light on this matter. So first of all, this person who wrote the article, interestingly underneath it, he says, some of the things he says, to identify himself. I won't mention everything. Physician, music player. Nowhere does it say, for example, a student of theology, Islamic theology, a graduate of the Islamic seminary, studying, for example, or a professor of Islamic studies. Nowhere. Okay. So this is very important. In the next slide is when we come across, if this actually cooperates, when we come across issues like this, is what is the credibility of the person, the people, the group who are writing or speaking? What's background they have? Physician, by all means, I respect you as a physician. But when it comes to Islamic studies, what do you know? When it comes to Qur'an and the interpretation of the Qur'an, what background do you have? Now, interestingly, the person himself says that I don't even speak Arabic. He says, and most of the knowledge that he has comes from Google. Now, quite interesting. There are people who write, who are good writers, and I admit he is a good writer. There's no question about it. Good writer. And there is another individual who's a very good writer as well, an author. Has authored some books, which has made that individual very popular, about an experience this individual had with a group, with a community in Canada. Interestingly, that individual, the latter one that I'm talking about, is very famous worldwide. Lots of invitations, has been on BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, etc., etc. Yet, I was talking to a friend of mine who's doing his PhD at McMaster University in Islamic Studies. And I asked him, from the academic point of view, how credible is this individual academically? The books that this individual has written, are they studied in academia? Are they looked at? He said, no, of course not. This person does not have any, again, background in Islamic studies, does not have a PhD even in Islamic studies, is not a graduate of the Islamic, for example, seminary, of some credible, nothing. This individual is a good author, is a good writer, and therefore academically no one will accept these books. Academically, they're unaccepted. Interestingly, religiously they're also unaccepted because the person does not have any religious credibility in the terms of the seminary work. It's unaccepted. The person, however, is a good writer, good author, good speaker. That we give credit. But when it comes to credibility, nothing. And even in the academic world, it has no credibility. It has credibility where? With the public, general public. People, when they read this book, they say, oh, this is really good. Oh, this is really good arguments. Just like this individual who I'm talking about. In the article that this individual has written, also, very good article. The arguments tend to make sense for those who don't know. But what is the credibility? Nothing. Second, are the views mainstream? So what is the credibility? One. Two, what are the views? Are they mainstream? What do we mean by mainstream? I'll give you a quick example here. Very quick example, which I've given in the past, but I think it's important to remind. There is a doctor, medical doctor, from Italy, who published a paper a few years ago about a particular treatment for some illness. People who had this illness in Canada, they wanted to get that treatment. So what did Canadian doctors do? They reviewed the article, the paper that was published. They reviewed it. They looked at it. Now, the person who wrote it is credible. He has the credibility. He is a medical doctor. He's not like a fake. He is a medical doctor, absolutely. He is a researcher in this field, absolutely. However, the views, they're not mainstream. The views don't even make sense from the academic point of view. Several scholars and medical doctors specialized in this field here in Canada started to review the examinations. They started to trying to reproduce his study. So they took some patients and they tried to figure it out. They tried to replicate it, see if they can do it, duplicate it, I should say. And a researcher, a professor from UBC and one from Saskatchewan, they both collaborated together and they published a paper last year saying that this paper is not authentic. This work is not right. We cannot reproduce this data. There is no difference between control group and the one that's receiving the treatment. It's the same. So we say that, you know what? All this research is not credible. Not that the individual is not credible. He himself has the credibility, the credentials, let's say. He's got the credentials. But his research is flawed. And therefore, when we get an article, a book, some paper, first of all, we look at the credibility of the individual. Second, is we look at how is this accepted by those who are experts in the field. It does not mean we don't encourage new thinking, not at all. Of course, we encourage people to think, give out new ideas, especially in the madhab of Ahlul Bayt, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We constantly, our scholars, our ulama, the madhab of Ahlul Bayt did not close the doors of ijtihad. Until today we have mujtahideen, scholars who continuously research and try to figure out some new ideas based on the Holy Qur'an, the teachings of the Qur'an and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. They go into the books, research the ahadith, research the traditions, the history, the authentic part of it, and they try to come up with ideas. Some of the scholars have written books on economics, for example, Islamic economics, based on the ahadith, Islamic philosophy, based on the Qur'an and the ahadith, and so on and so forth. So therefore, it's not that we're blocking the new innovation. We're saying, close your mind, khalas, this is it. No, not at all. All what we're saying is that when a new idea is produced, a new book is given, where is the consensus there, the general consensus? Okay. The ulama, the scholars, the experts in the field. So these two things are important to realize. Credibility, who's saying? Not just a nice piece of work that's written. Who is this individual? Does he have any background? Nothing. Okay. And the views, are they accepted, validated by the majority who are experts in the field? Which is a common practice. Like I said, even in medicine they do this. In other fields, that's what they do. Okay. It's common practice. Same thing in fiqh and Islamic jurisprudence. On this note, I just want to make a clarification that whatever discussion we'll be making today, inshallah, will be based on the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'in. So on these teachings is what we will be answering is, just as a clarification. So that is the review. Now, let's take a look at the translations. Why am I looking at the translations? Because this individual who wrote the article himself does not speak Arabic. So what did he use? If he can't speak Arabic or understand Arabic, how did he read the Qur'an or understand what's written in the Qur'an? What did he base his knowledge from? The translation, right? And interestingly, the other individual who I mentioned, that individual has written books and has been invited to several news channels, and that individual also does not speak Arabic. So the knowledge that individual has also comes from where? Translations. Now, I'm going to give you two examples of people who translated the Qur'an in English. What do they say themselves about their translations? Themselves. One of them is Marmaduke Pickthall. You can go look it up. He's got an interpretation of the Qur'an. It's even used in the academia. I have a book written by an academic. The copy of the Qur'an this individual used in her book is Marmaduke Pickthall. The translation is Marmaduke Pickthall. So it's accepted in the academia and used by academics. Okay. What does he say, Marmaduke Pickthall, in the meaning of the glorious Qur'an? This is the translation. He says the Qur'an cannot be what? And translated. Interestingly, I'll repeat the sentence again. The Qur'an cannot be translated. That is the belief of old-fashioned sheikhs and the view of the present writer. Now, I wonder, why does he call them old-fashioned sheikhs, when he says the present writer as well? I'm not sure. Old-fashioned, maybe like the older sheikhs or older centuries sheikhs and the present. But I don't know why he calls them old-fashioned. Nonetheless, he himself also says, I agree on this view as well. You cannot translate the Qur'an. The book is here rendered almost literally, and every effort has been made to choose benefiting language. But the result is not what? The glorious Qur'an is not the glorious Qur'an. And then later in the same sentence, it can never take the place of the Qur'an in Arabic, nor is it meant to do so. You go to this Marmaduke Pickthall in the introduction, in the preface. Go read. This is right there. That's one. The second translator, Arthur Arbery. Interestingly, he did not even call his work translation. He called it the Qur'an what? What does interpreted mean? What does interpreted mean? It means what you understand of it. So he was actually very interestingly, even in his title, admitting this is an interpretation. My understanding. What does he say? In fact, interestingly, I did not put it here. Arthur Arbery says that Marmaduke Pickthall did a really good job. He was really sincere in translating. Yet he also says that his copy is not free from errors. He also has errors. Marmaduke has errors. Now what does he say? In choosing to call the present work the Qur'an interpreted, I have conceded the relevancy of the orthodox Muslim view, of which Pickthall, for one, was so conscious that the Qur'an is what? Untranslatable. You cannot translate the Qur'an. Any version whatsoever is bound in the nature of things to be but a poor copy of the glittering splendor of the original. Did you see this? Again, go to the preface of the Qur'an Interpreted, you'll see. And interestingly, actually, for those of you who are interested, the copy here is available online of Arthur Arbery. And I request you to go online and check his introduction, because he has kind of a lengthy introduction about the faults of almost every translation in English. The faults, how actually they've been biased, they've been driven by some agenda, and so on and so forth. Arthur Arbery in his introduction, available online. You guys can look it up. So you see, these are two examples. Interpreters of the Qur'an or translators of the Qur'an, what do they say? Can you translate the Qur'an? No. Is their work meant to substitute or replace the Qur'an? No, it's not. So then my question is, if this is the translators themselves are saying you cannot really use our work to substitute, then how could someone come and pick up the translation and start deducing laws? You see what I'm saying? This is the translators themselves. That's what they're saying. So by what right do you have? People, we're not saying don't interpret the Qur'an, don't do tafsir. By all means, study, go through the process. Like our fuqaha did. Many of our ulama, many of the interpreters of Qur'an themselves are not Arabs. They studied Arabic, they learned Arabic, They studied history, ahadith, traditions, Arabic eloquence, balagha, until they got to the level where they could read the Qur'an, understand the Arabic, and then interpret to the best of their understandings based on the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salam. Okay? So that is something we want to make very clear. Now, does the Qur'an actually contain anything of violence? So this takes us to the gist of it. I will only discuss two examples for the sake of time, brothers and sisters. First example, which is quoted by this individual in the paper. He quotes this ayah, Surah An-Nisa, Surah number 4, ayah number what? 89. Very briefly, here I will read the English here. They are eager that you should disbelieve as they disbelieved. These are the hypocrites. The ayah is written about the hypocrites. Okay. So that you all become alike. You know, the hypocrites want the mu'mineen to become like them. They don't want them to remain mu'mineen. So they try to do whatever within their capacity to make them become non-believers. Okay, like them. So choose not friends from them till they forsake their homes in the way of Allah. Yani if they change their attitude, their iman, their faith, by all means. By all means. Otherwise, don't take them as friends. If they turn back to enmity, become your enemies, then take them and kill them wherever you find them. And choose no friend nor helper from among them. You see this? Okay, you see this ayah? Now, this is an example that, you know what? فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَخُذُوهُمْ وَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُمْ. If they turn back to their enmity, go kill them and find them anywhere you find them. Kill them. This ayah, those who do not follow the madhab of Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salam, those who do not have a clear understanding of the Qur'an, those who read this ayah and only this ayah, it tells them what? You can go and kill the people, the enemies of Allah. Anyone who's an enemy, go ahead and kill him. Okay? Interesting. Is this the right thing to do? Just to take this ayah by itself? No, it's not. Because that's called the cut and paste style. Let's read the ayah after it. Okay, the next ayah. This is number 89. Let's go to 90 and then I'll come back to this ayah. So let's go to the next slide. Well, I can get to the next slide. I thought I told you I had to change the battery here, Haji, you know. Up there, you know. Thank you. This is the next ayah. Except those who seek refuge with a people between whom and you there is a covenant, or those who come unto you because their hearts forbid them to make war on you, or make war on their own folk. Had Allah willed, He could have given them power over you so that you assuredly or certainly they would have fought you. So, if they keep out of your way and do not what? This ayah, this right here. Do not what? Fight you and offer you peace. Allah does not allow you any course of action, what? Against them. Now you tell me, what did you understand from the ayah? What is the first ayah referring to? What do you think? What is the first ayah referring to? People are being attacking. They're attacking you. You are being attacked. Okay. If you are not being attacked, do not fight you. Then, can you fight them? No, you can't. Can you attack them? No, you can't. But if I take that ayah by itself, yes, go find them, kill them. But that's not the idea. It's those who are fighting against you, propagating against you. Today in the world, we have something called the Interpol. You know what the Interpol is? Okay. In fact, here in Canada recently, there was in Montreal a big murder case where the murderer ran away to Europe, but he was captured. He was caught in some country in Europe, and what did they do with him? What did they do with him? They brought him back here again. Why did they bring him back here? You go find them wherever they are. Gotta go. He committed a crime. And recently he's been convicted of the crime. Now in some countries, developed countries in the world, the crime for which he committed, the punishment would be what? Capital punishment. In some developed countries. Developed, huh? I'm not talking about so-called third world countries. No, developed countries. Some of them, if you've committed a crime of murder and you're caught anywhere, they bring you back and you're convicted, you could face the death penalty. So what's the difference between this and this? You tell me. Today, in one of the most developed countries in the world, today, a person published some information on the internet which he should not have because they contain some secret information. And then this person ran away. And he sought refuge in another country. This country, this developed country, is now looking for him. Say, bring him back. We want him. He's a fugitive. And if convicted of treason, this individual will face what? The death penalty. Okay. And this is a developed country in the world. I'm not talking about, again, a so-called third country. Someone is considered to be a person of interest because he is considered to be sabotaging or creating a problem, leaking some secret information online. This person may be considered, if convicted, that he's plotting against his own country. Therefore, the punishment could be death. Treason, right? Qur'an says those who are fighting against you, plotting against you, such people, if you catch them, then you need to punish them. Otherwise, those who are not fighting against you, the next ayah is clear. Do not fight you. So if they keep out of your way, فَإِنِ اعْتَزَلُوكُمْ فَلَمْ يُقَاتِلُوكُمْ قِتَال, fight you. Do not fight you. They don't fight you. And offer you peace. Allah does not allow you any course. فَمَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ عَلَيْهِمْ سَبِيلًا. Make sense? But if I just take that first ayah, number 89, and say, look, well, obviously. But this is not the way to interpret the Qur'an. Don't cut and paste. Read the whole thing. Read the next ayah. Okay, that's one example. Second example. Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah number 5, ayah number 33. Okay. Again here, the only reward of those who make war upon Allah and His Messenger and strive after corruption in the land will be that they will be killed or crucified or have their hands and feet on alternate sides cut off. What this means is you cut off, for example, the right hand and the left foot. And by the way, our fuqaha say cutting the hand only means these 4 fingers and the feet only means the fingers of them. It doesn't mean you cut the whole feet. So that's the interpretation of the ayah. Okay? So they get, or will be expelled. So there are levels of punishments. Either they could be killed, crucified, or they get their fingers cut off, or expelled out of the land, kicked out. Such will be their degradation in the world, and in the hereafter theirs will be an awful doom. They have a severe punishment. وَلَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. Who are those people? The ayah is said, the reason for the revelation of the ayah. Why did this ayah get revealed? Some people came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They came to him. They said, Ya Rasulullah, we want to become Muslims. So they became Muslims, but the air in Medina did not go well with them. So they became ill, very ill. The Prophet then sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, you know what, if that is going to be a problem for you to stay in Medina, how about you go to some farmland, a bit far away from Medina. The air is much cleaner. And you know what, we have some camels there, we have some herds, and you'll be taken care of. All on our expense. We take care of you. They went to these lands, they stayed there, they became much better. And instead of thanking Rasulullah, thanking the people who are looking after them, they turn to each other and they say, you know what, these are lots of camels here. We could become very rich, if we take them. This is what. So what did they do? At night they went and they killed all the owners, the Muslims, of the camels, the people who were feeding them, the people who were taking care of them. They killed them all and they stole their camels. The ayah was revealed. Such people who go after all you've done for them. You fed them, you took care of them. These people fed you, took care of you. You go ahead and kill them in such manners? Then those people don't deserve to live. Or they deserve a severe punishment. Okay? Depending on the degree of the crime, So it is up to the faqih or the Imam or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to decide which crime, what the punishment will be, according with the crime. Suitably. They could be just expelled out of the land, for example, or they could have their fingers and their feet cut off. And feet, I mean the fingers of the feet, the toes. Or they could be just, for example, killed or crucified. And why the severe punishment? It's to deter people from committing such crimes, to deter them. Don't let them do this. That's why the Qur'an says you have to have such punishment. Just so that people don't think about doing this, because they know the consequence is going to be severe. So you know what? I better not do it. And not only in dunya, in the akhirah as well. Okay. This ayah, if we understand why it was revealed, what is it talking about, then it makes sense. Some nation in World War II used the nuclear bomb, right? How many people got killed in the nuclear bomb? Thousands. How many people became, for example, had children who were genetically mutated or deformed because of this? How many? So many. Now the country says, well, we were at war, and so this was justified. This is justified because we were at war. Those people were attacking us. They're killing us. I'm not here to discuss the ethics of the issue here. I'm not here to discuss the ethics. Okay? Whether this was right thing or the bad thing. But people saying we're being attacked. We're being killed. And therefore we had to defend ourselves. Okay? So we did this. Okay. Not to say that this was justified. All I'm trying to say is that the Qur'an says those people who attack and cause corruption and kill innocents, those cannot be left unpunished. They have to have a severe punishment. According to how big is their crime. They could be just expelled from the land or depend on the degree. Does that make sense? Now we understand what the ayah is talking about. But if I take the ayah by itself and put it there, of course, people will not have an understanding and say, look at what the Qur'an is saying. Go kill and cut fingers and toes or cut feet. People don't even understand what is meant by hands and feet. It's fingers and toes. People don't. So this is something important. These are two examples. So if we go to the next slide, when we look at the Qur'an, can anyone interpret the Qur'an? Anybody comes with no knowledge, with no understanding? And the answer is no. Qur'an itself says you need to go back to Ahlul Bayt for interpretation. And look at these ayah. These are three examples. And no one knows its interpretation, ta'wil, except Allah wal-rasikhuna fil ilm. Those who are firmly rooted in knowledge. Those are the ones who know its ta'wil, how to interpret. Ask those who know. If you don't, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ. أهل الذكر, ask the people. You can't just do it on your own. All those who believe, obey Allah and obey the messenger and those who have authority over you. Don't just go ahead, you interpret the Qur'an. That's really important because what we need to do is look at the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. When did the Prophet go and kill innocents? In fact, in the incident, in the first example, the ayah I mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 90. The interesting story behind that is there were two tribes, Bani Dhamra and Al-Ashja'. Al-Ashja' came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih in Medina with 700 men. They came. The Prophet said, some messenger, he said, go find out why are they coming? Why are they sending 700 men? They came, they told the messengers, we are here to make peace with you. So the Prophet then came. He said, what do you guys want? They said, Ya Rasulullah. Or they did not believe in him as Rasulullah because they were kuffar. They said, by his name. They called him by his name. They said, we are here to make peace. We're not going to fight against you, nor will we support you in fighting against others. You know what? We'll just leave you alone. You leave us alone. You know what did the Prophet do? He said to his companions, bring a plate of dates as a gift for them. Give them a gift. The Prophet gave them a gift. You know? Why? Because they're coming for peace. They don't want to believe in Islam. By all means. La ikraha, there is no compulsion in religion. You read this in Ayat al-Kursi, right? The second ayah. La ikraha fi din. The Prophet did not take them all and cut off their heads and say, you guys are kuffar. What are you talking about? We are the haqq, we're the truth. Not at all. Where do we have this? The people of Mecca, and this is such a beautiful example. People who fought against Rasulullah more than 20 years, trying to kill him, kicking him out of his country, of his city. Killed his uncle, killed some of his dearest companions, fought against him for years. When the Prophet put them all under his control, when he comes back to Mecca, he forgives them all. Show me an example of mercy greater than this mercy. Imam Ali Salamullah alayhi says, when you have a power over your enemy, make the forgiveness of your enemy a sign of gratitude to Allah for enabling you to have power over him. Look at the akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt. And he did this where? In which battle did Imam Ali do this? You tell me. No, not that one. Jamal. In Jamal. Jamal. That lady came to fight against him. Those people came to fight against him. Imam Ali won. He could have killed them all. And he had the right to do so. Because about 20,000 Muslims got killed in that battle. Who's responsible? 20,000. Who's responsible? He could have killed them. He was justified. But did he do so? No. He said, you go. Everybody. And that lady, he sends 40 women dressed as men. And he says, take her back to her city with all dignity and respect. The whole way back, she was saying, Ali ibn Abi Talib has exposed me. He's kept me with all these men. As if when she came, she did not come with men. And she was talking about Imam Ali Salamullahi alayhi until they arrive in Medina, those women, then they take off their covers. They say, actually, we are all women. We're not men. Look at this example. Subhanallah, this Ali ibn Abi Talib is a true student of Rasulullah. That's this rahmah, this mercy. This is what the examples. We need to look at their examples. Don't just come up with theories. What is the truth? This is the sunnah of Rasulullah, the sunnah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And therefore, look at some of the verses in the Qur'an. Allah does not forbid you respecting those who have not made war against you on account of your religion and have not driven you from your homes, that you should show them what? Kindness. And deal with them how? Justly. Surely Allah loves the doers of justice. This is Surah number 60. Those who have not fought against you, driven you out of your homes, they're not fighting. No, those people, you need to show them kindness and what? Justice. Be good to them. What else? Surely, the ayah I recited at the beginning in Surah Al-Nahl. Surely, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. Allah orders doing of what? Justice and virtue, kindness. Okay? And giving to the kin, charity. And He forbids indecency and evil and rebellion. He forbids it. What else? O you who believe, be upright for Allah, bearers of witness, with justice. And let not a hatred of a group of people incite you not to act equitably, means justly. You have to be just. When you talk with people, act with people, even if you hate them, that hatred should not make you be unfair. You have to go with the haqq. So all these ayat and many others, these are just examples here of verses that talk about kindness, virtue, justice, equality. So where do we take with all these verses? Why don't you quote these verses in the Qur'an? Okay. Now that we understand why those verses of war are there, because they are there to deter people from committing such acts, such crimes. Islam sometimes puts some kinds of difficult punishments to deter people from committing such crimes. And people who are attacking you, killing you, then you need to defend yourself. You need to defend yourself in war. Yeah. However, those who are at peace, not at all. This is the true teachings of Ahlul Bayt. So now that we understand the verses that talk about violence in the Qur'an, they are talking about those who are attacking the Muslims, killing the Muslims, engaged in combat with the Muslims. Those are the people who you need to defend yourselves against. However, you cannot go around to people, some cartoonists or some places here and there, innocents, and just killing them all. That's not the way Islam is. And in fact, interestingly, those terrorists who only understand part of the Qur'an, in fact, they don't understand any part of the Qur'an, because they read those verses I quoted without reading what's behind them, what's before them, what's after, nothing. Don't understand. They kill the Muslims. The Muslims are the biggest victims of these people. Today, look at the countries in the world. The biggest victims are the Muslims, especially the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. They're the biggest victims of such people. So their people are not acting on the basis of Islam. It's on the basis of ignorance, hatred. Wal-'iyadhu billah. And unfortunately, when we see promotion of such ideologies in Western newspapers, that this is what Islam is, Islam promotes violence, Islam does this, Islam does that, when there is no fair portrayal of Islam, what do we see happening? The incident we saw a couple days ago, unfortunately. A man goes into the house of 3 new graduates or students, Muslims, and he shoots them and kills them all. Unfortunately, that's what we see happening. Injustice being done. Or what we saw happening a few years ago in Norway with that man who killed several people because of some ideology he has. That's what we see happening. So this is harming us all. We need to really think about Islam. So now I will leave you with this conclusion. Violence in the Qur'an, reality or myth? I'll leave the answer for you to provide based on what we discussed. Now let's raise our hands in dua, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us, insha'Allah, these humble efforts, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help those mu'mineen and mu'minat who asked us to pray for them and remember them in dua. Some of them are ill, some of them have some hajat, some of them are in some difficulties. And those mu'mineen and mu'minat who have left this dunya in the recent time, who are also in need of our dua and prayers, that may Allah forgive them, insha'Allah, and shower them with His mercy as well. Let's raise our hands in dua, brothers and sisters. Together, let's read these ayat, or this ayah, and read this dua. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله 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 يا الله. إلهي بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها، اكشف عنا السوء يا الله. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا، كفر عنا سيئاتنا، وتوفنا مع الأبرار يا الله، مع محمد وآله الأطهار يا الله. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. اللهم اقض حوائج المؤمنين والمؤمنات، شاف وعاف جميع مرضى المؤمنين والمؤمنات، على الخصوص من أوصونا بالدعاء منهم. اللهم اقض حوائجهم، شاف مرضاهم، احفظهم في أوطانهم وديارهم بحفظك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا، اجزهما بالإحسان إحسانا وبالسيئات غفرانا. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج، واجعلنا من شيعته وأنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا ودليلا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أرنا الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة، واكحل أنظارنا بنظرة منا إليه. اللهم نقسم عليك بالزهراء فاطمة إلا ما رزقتنا شفاعة الزهراء في الدنيا وفي القبر وفي الآخرة يا الله يا الله يا الله، لقضاء الحوائج ولشفاء المرضى ولكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة ولتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان، وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات، على الخصوص أرواح أموات الجالسين والحاضرين، ولا سيما إلى روح المرحوم الحاج إبراهيم جان محمد، نهدي له ثواب مجلسنا هذا مع السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. الله